So lately, there has been a lot of talk about insider trading amongst Congress members. Even I made a video on this exact topic just a few weeks ago after Nancy Pelosi basically said that all Congress people should be allowed to invest in stocks and ultimately trade them too. She even doubled down since then and said that we are a free market economy and that people in government should be able to hold stocks and trade them as long as they do it legally and are reporting everything as they should. All they need to do is follow the law. However, since then there has been an explosion in pretty much every industry accusing people of insider trading. Several Federal Reserve members have been accused of insider trading, and even the chief medical advisor to the United States, Anthony Fauci, has been accused of insider trading and hiding finances from the general American public. So today I want to talk all about these accusations and go over, should members of our federal and state governments be able to trade and hold stocks, or if they should be completely banned from it. We're also going to talk about a brand new bill that is going to be introduced into Congress later this week that would potentially ban all Congress members from owning stocks and trading them freely. So be sure to stick around till the very end of this video to learn everything you need to know about insider trading from Wall Street to Capitol Hill. But before I get into all of that, my name is Nate from Minority Mindset News, and if you like this video, then smash that thumbs up button below and hit that notification bell too. That way YouTube shows our videos to way more money minds around the world, and we can keep making videos just like this one. So this whole idea about insider trading has been a hot topic for a long time, but recently it's really exploded. And the reason for that is because two Fed officials were accused of insider trading all the way back in October. Two Federal Reserve presidents, the Federal Reserve President of Boston and the Federal Reserve President of Dallas, were accused of insider trading. And basically what happened was they invested millions of dollars into individual stocks and bonds all the way back in 2020. Now, normally that's not really a problem, especially since a lot of their transactions were completely disclosed with the Federal Reserve. However, it was a little bit fishy about when they made those individual transactions. Some of those transactions were made just days before an impromptu meeting was held by Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell, for some of these meetings, essentially came out and said that there was going to be policy adjustments for the United States. For these particular meetings, though, Powell said that the Federal Reserve was going to start buying billions of dollars in assets on Wall Street every single month. The thing that gets a little bit sketchy, though, is these Fed presidents actually started buying millions of dollars in bonds just before the Federal Reserve announced that they would start doing the same. And the bonds were going to be the exact same bonds that the Fed was purchasing. This pretty much went under the radar for an entire year because when these things are reported to the public and when these things are eventually found out are typically a whole year after these individuals make the trades. Once the public found out about this, though, they were completely enraged, and this led to those two Fed Reserve presidents eventually retiring a little bit early. And now there is an entire investigation going on for that particular matter. However, no charges have been brought up about actual insider trading as of yet. But this did prompt the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell to say that any key members of the Federal Reserve are now banned from owning individual stocks. They can only invest in things like ETFs or index funds. And things started to fizzle out from there, but then they were immediately brought up when House Speaker Nancy Pelosi basically said that Congress should be allowed to trade stocks. We are a free market. Those are her words, not mine. And where that came from is that people found out that Nancy Pelosi invested in some big tech stocks like Apple and Disney. And the American public found out that she ultimately did this right around when the pandemic was just getting started. So remember, back in March of 2020, the pandemic started, everything closed, and now there was a need for higher technology in our everyday lives. Not only that, but we had entertainment stocks like Disney and Netflix start to boom. Everybody was inside and they needed things to do. So Nancy Pelosi basically invested into these stocks, and then these stocks ultimately exploded in value. But she basically said that this is not a problem as long as it's all disclosed and as long as Congress people are following the law. And that brings us to Dr. Anthony Fauci. he recently had a hearing before Congress where he was talking about the new virus variant. And one of the questions that ultimately came up was about his financial disclosures and how he is not disclosing them properly. The senator and Fauci had a very heated exchange where Fauci basically called him a moron for not knowing that all of his financial disclosures are completely open to the public. And that brings us to sort of the bulk of this discussion. Are Congress people and senators and people that work in the government, are all of their financial trades and investments completely open to the public? Well, kind of. You see, back in 1978, we had something called the Ethics of Government Act officially passed. This was in a response to Watergate, and it basically said that all members of Congress and executives like the president and vice president, need to disclose all of their financial transactions, especially when it comes to assets like stocks and bonds. In addition, this includes all appointed officials. So that pretty much means anybody in the president's cabinet also has to report all of their investments. But that still leaves a ton of other public figures in the government who are not directly putting out all of their investments to the public. For instance, Dr. Anthony Fauci does not directly publish all of his financial transactions like stocks and bond trades. However, that does not mean that you can't access all of this information. All of this information can actually be found. You just need to request it from the federal government, and then they will literally send you all of the information on all of their transactions. Now, I will say a lot of their transactions are going to be delayed. Like if you pulled Anthony Fauci's trades for right now, you wouldn't see 2021 numbers. You'd probably only see numbers from 2020 or from when he sold stocks. This is because they're not actively reporting everything that they're trading. However, all of it gets reported at the end of the year or on a specific date. For these individuals in the government, that date would be May 15th. However, as far as Nancy Pelosi is concerned, all of her stocks and trades and any other investments that she has is actually all completely public. She actually will put out reports, or her team will put out reports about all of her investments, and you can actually find those online right now. I mean, seriously, go do a Google search of Nancy Pelosi investments and you will find a ton of sites showing you exactly what she is investing in. But the bigger debate here is all about insider trading. Insider trading basically means that someone makes a trade on Wall Street and only does so because they have information that nobody else has. Basically, if you are an insider for a company, let's say Apple, and you know everything about Apple's finances, how much they're earning, and you know everything about their business, so when they're coming out with products and any upcoming announcements that they're going to have, and you basically use that information to buy stocks at particular times, let's say right before a big earnings call or right before a massive update where they're going to announce a brand new product. If you buy stocks right before that, knowing all of that information, well, that is insider trading. And it is highly illegal. It is considered market manipulation because that's not a free market. That's basically you trying to get ahead of everybody else, and everybody is supposed to have the same opportunity when it comes to the stock market. And this debate really came up because, like I said, Nancy Pelosi invested millions of dollars into some tech stocks right before and at the start of the 2020 pandemic. And people started to ask, why is she pouring so many millions of dollars into these stocks when there's nothing really happening? Well, of course, then we found out that the pandemic was coming, and now people were going to be staying inside and using a lot more technology. And the same can be said for the Federal Reserve presidents and anyone else in Congress. Basically, what people are saying is that these members of the government are just simply predicting what is happening. But the fact that they are right a lot of the time is a little bit sketchy. That is exactly why Senator Jon Ossoff is about to introduce legislation into Congress that will basically ban members of Congress from owning individual stocks. Basically, how it would work is that if anyone from Congress wanted to do any investing, they would basically have to just put money into a blind trust. A blind trust means that the congressperson would not have any access or say over what is put into the trust. That would all be decided by a group of trustees. They they actually take the money and invest all of it for you. So it's kind of like a mutual fund, except for you can't see or do anything about what goes on in the mutual fund. He basically said that this bill is all about accountability, but it's also about ensuring that the perception and the ability of our constituents to trust us is much easier because they don't have to wonder about our motivations. Having a bill like this essentially removes all of the doubt that anyone could have. And right now, it would also impose a lot harsher penalties on Congress members that do not follow the rules as far as filing individual transactions. Right now, they're supposed to file a trade or asset purchase within 45 days of making that transaction. However, it was found that around 52 Congress members violated this ordinance last year. It was also found that members of Congress made around $515 million on stock and asset transactions in 2021 alone. That is a massive haul. And this new bill would essentially limit their powers and limit all of the things they can do as far as buying assets on Wall Street or just about anywhere else. The whole goal of the bill is to create transparency, so that way all of the American public can see everything that these members of Congress are doing with their money. What are they buying? When are they trading? And where is their money going? The reason being is because we want our members of Congress to be completely non-biased when making decisions about our country. We don't want Congress members shooting down a bill because they have interest in a particular industry. They can not like a bill for other reasons, but it shouldn't be because of their own invested interest. And the real question is, should members of Congress be allowed to trade and invest in stocks or other assets? And this is a little bit of a complicated answer. Nancy Pelosi mentioned it before, but we live in a free market economy. That means that anybody should be allowed the same opportunity to invest in the stock market or anywhere else in order to build wealth. Well, I guess unless you work in the Federal Reserve. But I guess the whole idea here is that if you start taking that away, then you start restricting who can be wealthy within our country. And it gets even more complicated because members of Congress are going to own stocks, even if they don't technically own them. Somebody on their behalf will own them, or it will be in a trust, but most likely they'll be getting money from the market somehow. Is that particularly wrong? Well, I'm not really convinced because everything that these Congress people do is heavily reported. I mean, every single time there is a meeting in Congress, you can basically turn on C-SPAN and watch it. In addition, you can see everything that is going to be included in bills all online. And even when these Congress people make trades and buy assets, all of that information is public knowledge. You simply just need to look it up. And on the point that Nancy Pelosi or other Congress people made some pretty sketchy trades in 2020, well, the only reason that those trades look sketchy is because they are Congress people. If anybody else made these trades, then it wouldn't really be a big deal. At least in my opinion, because tech stocks in particular have been booming for a long time now, and heavily researched investors could probably tell that these stocks were going to boom in 2020 and in 2021. And they ended up being a sound investment. And you can't fault somebody for investing in something because of that. The real question is, do these Congress people have insider knowledge when making all of these trades on Wall Street? And the answer is, again, very complicated. Somebody is always going to know more than you. CEOs on Wall Street know more than you about companies and what goes on the New York Stock Exchange. Congress people are going to know more than you about what happens behind the scenes when running our country. Just like you're going to know a lot about what goes on within your individual company. So does that mean you can't buy any stocks for your individual company? If you have friends that talk about their companies, can you not invest in any stocks in those either? You see, there's going to be a gray area here, but in my opinion, what I think needs to happen is we need more transparency. So I think bills like this and bills similar to this that don't necessarily limit but make all transactions a lot more public is what we need. We shouldn't limit the market itself, but we should have way more eyeballs on our Congress members. I mean, they are public officials. Everything that they do should be heavily disclosed and heavily reported on. And in some cases, it definitely is, but it could be a lot more transparent. And I think the wave of the future is definitely going to move in that direction. However, it doesn't really solve the problem because Congress members are still going to invest in stocks and bonds and other assets as much as they want. And if they truly do know something that we don't know, then maybe regular investors should use that information to make themselves wealthy as well. At least at that point, if everybody knows the inside knowledge, is it really insider trading anymore? But enough about what I think. I want to hear what you think about this issue. Do you think that Congress members and members of our government should be banned from owning stocks or other assets? Or do you think that we live in a free market economy and just about everyone should be able to buy things on Wall Street or anywhere on the free market as long as they are completely following the law? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below before you go. But that is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. Keep hustling, money minds, and I'll see you all in the next one.